The majority of Canadians are concerned the national housing crisis is affecting their health and quality of life. That's according to a new housing survey from the Habitat for Humanity Canada. It reports 59% of Canadians say they worry about sacrificing other basic needs to pay their rent or mortgage, with 41% saying the stress of not being able to purchase a home is difficult to manage. The majority of Canadians say buying a house feels like a luxury. For renters, 88% say the goal of owning a house is now out of reach. Pedro Barata is the president and CEO of Habitat for Humanity Canada, and he joins me now. Hey, Pedro, thanks for coming on.
Pleasure to be here. Happy National Housing Day.
Yes, and same to you. I want to zero in on a couple data points in your survey. The first, 84% say owning a home is a luxury. Another figure, 88% of renters saying owning a home is out of reach. So, huge swaths of our population now saying they've been locked out of the market. Is the middle class dream of owning a home effectively dead at this point?
I would say that Canadians are they're struggling. They're clearly articulating that the current situation is not meeting their aspirations. That the notion that if you work hard, if you do all the right things, both this generation, future generations should be able to afford a home, and that gap is growing. And what Canadians are calling for is more action in more areas. And that's the way we're going to continue to move forward and make progress on maintaining a strong middle class.
I want to get to action in a second, but one other thing that really stuck out to me in this survey is that you found the housing crisis is essentially affecting people's mental health. Tell me about that dynamic. I take it the affordability crunch is really having taking a serious toll, especially on young people.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the most disheartening results from our survey, and is one that's actually been on the rise, is that the number of Canadian households who are saying that they're paying more than half of their income towards housing expenses, be that their rent, their mortgage, maintenance, that number is now at 54%. And of course, anytime your housing takes up that much of your budget, you're eating into other things. And so it's no wonder we're seeing rising food bank use. It's no wonder that people are reporting that their housing situation is stressing them out. It's pushing them on their mental health. And so all of these factors come together at a very real individual and family level. And of course, they also have broader repercussions. What is it that this means for intergenerational equity and for the ability of Gen Zs and millennials to have the same aspirations and do as well as their parents? That's also getting out of reach, and that's a real challenge because we're now seeing more and more young people delaying family formation and looking to move outside of their communities and even outside of the country.
Yeah, Gen Z in particular feeling a bit dejected about their future and whether they're going to be able to own a home based on some of the survey data here. You mentioned food banks. You've probably seen some of the recent reports out of Toronto in particular last year, 3.5 million visits to a food bank in that city alone. We know there's millions of other visits across the country. Do you think then that there is really a correlation between food bank usage and what people are having to shell out every month to afford a home?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing some action currently in terms of addressing, GST on some of the basics, including food, but a longer term strategy to really think upstream, to look at prevention, to look at the number one driver of what's really stressing families and their household budgets. It's all about housing. And we've been putting a lot of emphasis, senior levels of government, especially investing heavily in purpose-built rental. And that's justified. We had a lot of room to catch up, and we still do. There's still a lot more progress that we have to make on affordable rental options. But we've kind of taken our eye off the ball of affordable home ownership, which remains a real priority for Canadians. And there are real tangible action that we can start taking now to turn that situation around and create a continuum of housing options, which is exactly what's going to respond to the diversity of Canadian needs.
What kind of action would you like to see? Obviously, the federal government rolled out its housing plan earlier this year, which is sort of a multi-billion-dollar plan to build what they say is almost 4 million homes by 2031. They've taken the GST off purpose-built rental homes. They have the Housing Accelerator Fund. They're working on some other initiatives. Do you think what they have planned is enough, or are there other things that you'd like to see them implement to actually start chipping away at this home this housing crisis that we're dealing with still?
Well, we agree with the Canadians who say that more needs to be done, and top of the list is lowering fees and taxes. As you mentioned, the GST has been rightly taken off, purpose-built rental as well as nonprofits and student housing. The federal government has not yet extended that same tax relief, GST tax relief, from affordable home ownership. We're building affordable homes, unlike private sector developers. We can't just pass on the costs of the GST to our home buyers because we need to keep that price point at an affordability level. So that means that for every dollar that we're paying in GST, we're building fewer homes, fewer options. And that's really the place to start. We're just looking for the federal government to extend the same treatment of GST on affordability into the affordable home ownership space. We're also seeing action, of course, on programs to build more affordable homes, and a lot of the emphasis of those programs has been on the rental side and moving the needle in terms of the availability in the market for more rental. And what we are looking for, and what's really required to address the desire of Canadians to have affordable home ownership, is that those programs actually include affordable homes in terms of their scope, and ensure that organizations like Habitat for Humanity can tap into some of those funds and really meet the dreams of Canadians and turn them into a reality.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre wants to scrap the GST on all new homes. I don't think he's making a distinction between nonprofit providers or profit providers or what have you. He just wants to get rid of it on all new homes. Is that something that you would stand behind? It's a pretty expensive promise, and he would have to get rid of the Housing Accelerator Fund to do it.
Anytime that we're talking about removing the GST off of affordable home ownership, we think that we are in the right conversation. And that's the action that we are looking for. I think that, different parties will be looking at different policy options over the next period. We are certainly more than happy to work with any party to discuss the importance of tax relief on affordable home ownership.
All right, let's leave it there. Thank you so much, Pedro Barata, President and CEO of Habitat for Humanity Canada. I appreciate you coming on, sir.
Thank you, JP. Have a great weekend.